Welcome to the Ray Festival live in Bulgaria and online wherever you are in the world.
Hello, everybody, and here we go again with another amazing guest we have in our virtual Zoom. What is it, like a radio platform, video platform, our window to the world. So, hi, guys. Super happy to see you again, yet again. Hi, Hannele, and,
Hello.
and hi, Julia.
Hello, hello. Yay.
Yay. Another day with three beautiful ladies. Hannele, we're very glad that you're our guest. We are inviting people during the Human Design Ray Festival 2024 from the 17th to the 22nd of January. Live in Sofia and online worldwide, to share the human design spirit, information, and experiment with people from all around the world. And we thought it would be interesting to also just do interviews, not just workshops, lectures, information, but just to show the people around the world who are living their design and are radically in their experiment. And so we invited some people, and you're one of them. So very glad to meet you in this time. We actually met at 11:11. Started. So yeah. Hi
Thanks
there.
for inviting me. Thanks for inviting me. I'm hi to everybody, of course. Um, Glad to be here. I hope I can offer you a nice contribution to your whole presentation.
So can you tell us more about yourself and how you met human design and where you are in the world right now and what's going on, and just connect, share?
Introduction, eh?
Mm.
Um, I'm currently in Finland, south of Finland. Very cold. It's been like minus 21 here, and it's kind of got warmer now, so I'm feeling a bit better. I think maybe, it's hard for me to introduce myself, so I'm just going to talk about my design. I think that's the best way to introduce myself. So, emotional generator, 3-5 profile, cross of contagion, personality sun in the 30th gate. I have only one channel in my design, and that's the 59-6. So I have 7 open centers. What else did you ask me? How did I meet human design?
Mm-hmm.
I actually met through my cousin. It was 2011, and she sent me some PDFs by Ra. And at the time, I was running quite a lot, and I was really focusing on like body's health. And I remember reading the PDFs and resonating with the fact that he was talking about the body and the body knowledge. But it didn't really quite bite me at that point. It took me another 2 years. And my cousin actually invited me in 2013 to France to do like a human design workshop in exchange for labor. I don't know if people know, I mean, you might know Nina and Dirk and all those people. They have a place in France that they were renovating at the time. So I went there and helped them out, and in exchange I got a bit of a crash course on human design and a reading, and it was love at first sight. I got right into it. Like I felt like something really shifted for me there, and I've been on the experiment ever since.
Yeah. Actually, I heard about the house. You meant Dirk Nellens?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, okay. So did you meet there Richard or as well or not?
No,
But
no,
they were
no,
doing an
just Derek, and he
experiment
didn't.
there, or what was it actually? It's
Yeah, so they were actually doing the house up. So they had bought this building, and it was just a shell of a house, and they were renovating it and making it into a kind of a bed and breakfast. And so they invited people over there to work, and then the the payment was a human design crash course in a way. So
ah,
I did that.
but
Yeah.
was it a community startup of human design over there or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Something like
So
that.
I heard
Yeah.
about it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, there are several, I think, tries around the world to do different communities. The most natural one was, of course, in Ibiza
Yeah.
Island.
Yeah.
And it already had a esoterical community there. And um, afterwards, as Therese Jagersberg was saying in our interview with her, and what her offering will be, is exactly a peak in that Ibiza times with Ra and the beginning of human design and everything. And also, we actually have an interview with another very recent tryout for human design co-living experiment in Portugal. So we're going to tell about that.
Oh.
So it's interesting how the theme comes through you too now with that
Mm.
French. Yeah, at some point, actually, Richard Beaumont was like telling me about it and saying, you should come and do dance there and da da da. So it's all coming up from here and there. Interesting.
That's nice. I mean, I know I've been talking with several people over the years about like communities and stuff, and it seems like there hasn't been any fuel for it before. There's like little pockets of communities building up, but nothing really like that. And we'll just see how it develops, I guess. It's interesting to watch the expansion in a way.
Mm. Actually, now that you say that, I remember also Andres Schinke, you and I met in Romania.
Yeah.
He was also in a big, very big community. It's not a human design community, but it was a very big community in Germany. And since he's a new human design enthusiast, of course, he
Mm.
told everybody he is connected to about it, but I don't know how really they are experimenting. So this is interesting to meet human design, not via a reading so much, but like going bang in a community and
Mm.
directly
Yeah.
experimenting. That's nice. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my experience. Obviously, I had an idea of what it was, but I didn't really get it. And walking into this place that was full of people who were more or less living their design was really strange for me. Like it was the dynamic was all weird. I felt like there's something spooky going on in here, and I didn't quite fit in because I didn't get it until later on. And I remember thinking, like most people might think, that it's a cult and it's freaky. And I have a gate of doubt in my open head, and I was like doubting that they're gonna like try to get me into this cult and steal my money. And I had this whole movie going on in here. And I was, like at the same time, I was intrigued by it. And I really felt like my body resonated with everything that was happening and even the energy that people had. But I still had that doubt going on in there. And for years and years, I still, even though I got to human design, I still remember like being doubtful of it and wondering whether people are actually just crazy. It was kind of funny movie.
Uh-huh. So, but can you tell us more about the dynamic? You said it was so weird, and what was the first thing that gave you impression that people were asking questions between each other too much, or what?
No, it was more like they just let you be. I was so used to like you go into, like we would go in there and we were renovating the house. So somebody asked me, I think it was Nina, maybe asked me if I wanted to paint the windowsills or something. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And then I'm there painting the windowsills, and I kind of didn't like it, or there was something about it, and I felt really bad for not doing it very well or something like that. There's always this kind of, you're used to being instructed and being watched what you do. So then she comes to me and just sees me like not doing much, like, oh, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. I'm like, do you want to do something else? And I'm like, what? I have freedom to, like just to be whatever I want to be or do nothing. Yeah, yeah, there's no pressure. And it was that lack of pressure that I felt that was like odd. I had never experienced that before, because our world works with the pressure. There's always somebody, you're in a workplace and there's always something that you have to do and deliver, and there's goals to reach and timelines. And I was so used to that. And I thought it was so odd that that was lacking there. In a way, in the same time, it was like freedom. But in, like I felt like I didn't really know how to be with that, because I didn't come from the human design world by then. I was coming from the homogenized world. So I thought it was really, really strange.
Hmm.
Now I get it.
Interesting. I remember my first experience when I met human design also was through somebody, through a person. And for me, it was really weird that she was constantly asking me questions. She was like, do you want that? And do you want that? And she was so fast. And I was like, uh-huh. And she said, oh, you're so connected to your sacred. And I'm like, okay, that must be good. So it was really weird indeed. And I also thought that something spooky going on, and that this person must be into some black magic or something, because
Mm,
I could really see in her eyes something so strong there that it spooked me.
mm,
Now I understand it was the passenger who was really, centered in themselves. And to me, it looked like this person is really strong, but there is something unworldly which gives it strength. It's not making sense.
mhm.
So yeah, I truly get it. Yeah. So is human design a cult?
Oh my God. Maybe for some people it is. I don't know, man. For me, it's not at all. It's everything but, you know.
I think the
I
keys for
think,
some people it is.
yeah, I think, like to me, that comes to I mean, it's nobody's fault, but we have limitations in our minds to have certain ideas or concepts. And when something is weird or out of norm, then we want to put a label on it. And the label that we have is a cult, because there is so much stuff and information and all kinds of stuff. So it may seem as that because it's an unknown. So that's kind of what I think is happening with that. But I see it more and more now because, like, especially here in Finland, human design has spread like wildfire now, and a lot of people know about it. There's obviously a lot of newbies and stuff, and I've seen some conversations, especially on Facebook, and those who don't really know, who have not been introduced to it, tend to immediately put the label on it that it's a cult of some kind.
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, okay, people can think what they want. Fun,
Really,
fun to watch it.
actually, the more time passes, the more I see that people don't think it's a cult,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
interesting because at the beginning, a lot of because it was not known, and really people were thinking it might be a cult. And now it's
Mm,
people look at it more like an astrology or just another tarot system, number
yeah.
system, coffee. Like sometimes people ask me like, so are you gonna tell me the future? And are you gonna do some magic for me or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, if you want to. Like,
But you
Yeah,
understand that it's also quite different in different places. I mean, we cannot also generalize. Remember, we had a talk with our Turkish presenter, and she shared a story that one of the influencers in actually the psychology world announced human design being a cult on TV or something like this. So things are, yeah, things are still happening big time in the world, and that's why it's interesting to see different perspectives, because some people understand this so well, their value and the depth of the tool, and use it everywhere in business and private life, in educating children, and you name it. And some are literally, without going deep, scratch the surface and bring their very defined ideas, very rigid opinions that aren't based on nothing but this surface generalized point of view, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, but at the same time, cult is like a belief in something, in somebody, and human design is exactly the opposite. It's like, please forget what you believe in and look inside and connect to your authority and stop listening to outer authority. So it's like, for me, that's the opposite of cult. It's, or if there
I
is a
actually
cult,
now
it's the
looked it
cult
up,
is me. It-
I looked it up in the dictionary, and it says cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object.
Mm.
So, in this term, when we see ourselves as the figure and the object to direct a devotion toward, we can clearly call human design a cult, because it's a cult of the self.
Counts towards one, me, myself, and I. But that's also not true, because we know from design that the moment you start accepting who you are is the moment you actually are ready and open to accept and love the other as they are. So, again, it just doesn't fit.
And no, and I think cults, they are direct towards having leaders. And always there's one leader who everybody worships, and it's the leader that becomes like the godlike figure, you know.
Mm.
And like, I'm a heretic, okay. So I kind of have a dislike. I have an understanding, but also dislike of how people just keep bringing Ra up all the time. Ra said this and Ra said that. I know it comes from him, and I respect that. That's obviously the source of everything, and I respect Ra for everything that he brought to the world. But we're still here to follow our own truth, and our own experience. So like there's always a danger when things get homogenized, and I want to use that word because that's what I see. The more human design spreads out to the world, the more homogenized it gets blended in with the new agey stuff, the astrology, all of that stuff. And it's not anybody's fault in a way. I think as a humanity, we're used to living in a world where there are leaders. So if you don't really go into the experiment of it, which is figuring out how you operate as yourself, then there's a tendency to look up to somebody. And obviously, in this case, it can be Mr. Hara or Rahu. And, then even though it's not a cult and these people are not taking it as a cult, it can look like that to the outside because of this tendency to bring somebody up. In the lack of, let's say, a lack of understanding of what the information actually brings you, which is the experiment of finding who you are. So I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, you're bringing a very important topic also, because a lot of people actually use human design to excuse themselves, like, I have this gate, and that excuses me from taking any responsibility for this action because it's so natural comes out of me that I have no choice. So it's all keywords, but when you put them like, without truly living it, then the mental understanding indeed brings you nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
even messier, and it can even put you in even more Maya confusion. So
Mm-hmm.
this is so important that we like use this tool, this technique, or this whatever people call it, human design, really, and that's the importance here with sticking with the source, is exactly not to make the jabula mishmash mix up tada, which at the end gets diluted and doesn't bring you to mm, to the real anchoring in your own frequency, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Yeah. So, and that's what we try to bring out to the world with the festival, is to bring the original frequency more universalized, so that there is also the true source of information there, and maybe it will resonate to those on which fractal it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of thought about this morning, and exactly what you said. Like the mind likes to go into design and say, "Oh, I have this in this gate, and therefore I'm like that." It's like the mind in our generation, in our world, basically, it's always being conditioned to be the one who's in control. And so, with human design, obviously, when you get to this experiment, you begin to realize that the mind is not in control, but it's always used to being in control. So even in human design, it tries to control by taking the information and navigating with the information, rather than allowing the body to just live its life. So it's like, in a way, like no judgment, that the mind is just naturally the kind of entity that wants to run the show, and it does it in various ways, and we are not always even aware of it. I think, there's a lot of it is unconscious. We just do that until you realize, it's like just something that happens. And I'm sure I did that at some point in my experiment anyway. I would go in and look at my design and come up with excuses for my behavior, or not having to take responsibility for something because I have this and that, So I think in some ways it's part of the process, a deconditioning process, also to notice that your mind might do that. Kind of something that I see all the time.
And
So where are you today in your experiment? How do you see your process evolving? And yeah, what's the difference? The final line. It's been so many years. You're an experiment. The before and after. How do you see that?
I still have a mind entity, not self entity, sitting somewhere there, trying to tell me what to do, but it's not in charge anymore. Like, I was kind of thinking about this, and I was wondering if it's possible within our species to even transcend the mind, to not trying to be in control. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe it is. But the way I see it is that it's always going to try and tell me what to do. It's always going to try to use every down wave that I have, every time I feel miserable, to try and use that somehow to take over and try to navigate my life. But for some reason, it just doesn't happen anymore. It's more like I catch it. I catch it and I see it, and it has no control. So, my life is pretty much like, I'm so in acceptance of not knowing what's going to happen. Like, I'm always expecting the unexpected. Like, I can make plans. Of course, I can make plans. I have some work days, and I know that I might be going there and there and there to teach yoga or whatever. But it's not like I plan my life around that. Anything can happen at any moment, and I'm okay. You know, I'm good if everything's gonna be gone one day, and I'll be left with nothing. Good. This is what my experience is, and I'm also good if something new comes. It's like it's funny. Like I moved back to Finland about a year ago, just over a year ago, and I was quite secluded before that and very much in my own experiment. And then suddenly I was put into this in the middle of the city kind of thing and living amongst the homogenized world. And I could really see how I just don't relate to any of the people, how they live their lives anymore. And people find me a bit odd because it's like a bit like I explained about the France, you know, like everything's okay, you know, don't have to do anything. You can expect anything to happen. You can ask questions. Whatever happens, it's okay. And then living in this kind of a space, it's in a way it's relief for me, but I can see the tension that it creates when I'm met with the outside world because they don't operate like that. And it's always like there's always, I wouldn't say explaining to do, but there's some kind of preparedness that I have to have when I meet the homogenized world to have to kind of meet the other where they are at, yet keep my my freedom to be allow everything to evolve as it is. So there's always like this kind of navigational thing that I have to do when I'm with the others. When I'm alone, I'm good, you know. I'm living in my flat and I don't have TVs here. I just have my own stuff. And every time people come to visit, they say that they feel like they're in another world, like they're completely outside of everything. It's like a little bubble here that, you know, like you're just yourself and time kind of stops. And then they go back to the world and stuff has happened, you know. Oh my God, there's another war broke out, or I don't know, you know. So in a way, it's like living in my own bubble, yet having to be in the world. And how do I navigate with that kind of friction that it might create? Well, I am a 59.6 and I have the 6K, which is a friction. So, you know, it's kind of in my design to deal with that in a way.
And that brings us to what you actually are open to talk about. And I find it a very interesting subject. Would you tell us more about it?
Oh, you mean in the open mic?
Yeah. And how you came
Yeah.
about it.
Okay, so I did some training with John Martin back in 2015, 2016. And at the end of the course, I remember him asking me a question, just because I have this only channel, it's my only channel. So he wanted my input on this subject, just because it's like, I guess my experience is only focused on that channel. So I don't have anything else there to kind of mix up with the energy of that. So the question he asked me was if I would talk a little bit about how my dog is having a dream on the background, so it's distracting me. Minnie, it's okay. It's okay. Good girl. So yeah, so he asked me a question. How is the 59.6 not sexual? And I love the question because nobody else had ever asked me that, and nobody ever talks about that, because everybody has the projection that, oh, 59.6 is in the transit, it's all about fucking, and you know. And this is 8 years ago when he asked me that. And I've been wanting to answer it, you know. I have been developing this kind of perspective of view and words around that. And, you know, how can I deliver the message in a most efficient way possible? But I haven't been ready, you know. I'm emotional, so some things take a little while to mature. In this case, 8 years. And I've been wanting to, I mean, I've been feeling ready to answer that question for a while, but opportunity hasn't come. And obviously John Martin has passed away now. And I kind of felt like I had a bit of an experience a few days ago, and it reminded me of the question. And I knew that this was a time for me to answer that. So I'm going to try and attempt to answer that in the open mic and see what comes out.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's so valuable because, I mean, fifth line, it's not only a frequency in people who have it as their personality or sun, earth, whatever. We all project. We all project, and we are all being projected in one way or another. And 59.6 is their greatest projection, one of top 5 projections in the human design body graph. And this energy has been played out, and I see myself how I'm often projecting on that. And I have someone in the family who has exactly your design. That's the only channel.
Wow.
Yeah, I wonder if you if you're born in the same day or something.
Are they in the experiment?
No, absolutely no interest in human design whatsoever.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's I'm sure that's the story of so many people who resonated with that knowledge and tried to introduce it to their family. And I try to invite them in my courses because I'm teaching there. Just come and be there. A lot of resistance, and it's okay. We know that this knowledge, just like any other knowledge, there's nothing other than breathing that is universal for anyone. Breathing is totally universal. I don't believe there is a single person whom it doesn't suit to breathe consciously. But other than that, yeah, that's that would be the great gift, of course, for that person. But we make our own choices. So you're gonna share your story around sexuality and not only.
I'm going to share the story of, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to share, to be honest, because I don't plan what I'm going to say. But for me, like, I can feel the kind of I don't know what words to use here, but like what's coming out of me in terms of that is the depth of the channel. And in the depth of the channel, sexuality is such a minor little part. It's, if you think about, I mean, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but if you think about reproduction, it's a channel of reproduction. What goes into that? It's not just sex. It's being pregnant. It's hormones. It's delivery. It's all of that stuff. There's a lot going on, and if you look at the channel, it has all the waves in it, all the tribal, individual, and collective. So there's stuff going on all the time. So it's much more than just about sex. And to me, it's kind of like a surface projection that people make about this channel. Oh, it's all about, fucking or sex or intimacy. Yeah, sure, it's about intimacy, but it's more about the emotions. The 59.6 is the pure emotional generator. It's a sacral connected to the solar plexus. So, there's a lot going on in there, which is way, way more than what we can kind of even imagine from the outside. And I wanted to, Julia, can you remind me of your profile?
1-3.
Oh, you're 1-3. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so
I love what
it's
you
more
say,
about.
Hannele. And yeah, I wonder how you see it, because even when you mention the word intimacy, what is it? Like, the whole thing of intimacy now is so redefined in the world. What we thought as intimacy before now becomes something totally different.
Yeah.
And the social media and the blogging is one of the most obvious examples how some of us become more intimate with this audience rather than with their own families and circle and so on. So the whole notion is changed. So the question is whether when we pronounce words, do we still put the same essence into them as we used to?
Yeah, and like
Isn't
to me, words are so important. Like you can see how in the world that we live in now, it's full of people talking, and a lot of like origins of the meanings of words have been changed or they have evolved over time. So when we talk and when we speak about things, it's not with a true like real contemplation. There's always some kind of a smudging with stuff, and so concepts get messed up in a way. Like I've been looking into especially my language. My language is quite complex. But it's like I used to think when I was younger, and I lived here before I moved to England and really learned the English language well. I used to think that my language was quite poetical in a way. And you can use any language in a very, very profound way when you pick up the right words, and it's about the frequency of the words. It puts like, like if I tell you something like, I think you should have a coffee. It puts a different frequency out there than saying like, I think coffee would be good for you. Different frequency saying, would you like to have some coffee? Like there's different ways of communicating the same thing, and it puts out a certain frequency, and it either creates a resistance in the other or opening. Obviously, if you're a generator, it's good to be asked. But that's just a small example. But when you start to actually look at what words you use, it changes the story completely. And some words have been thrown about like a lot, like for example, in human design world, no choice. I don't know, do people even really know what it means? Have they experimented what no choice means, or is it just a repetition? Like you, Veronica, said, to avoid responsibility of something, it's like repetition, I think, brings a lack of depth in a way. And then, like using words carelessly, it's out the wrong frequency. So we distort the reality. We distort the depth of what could be and what could be communicated in a way. So that's something that I'm looking. I mean, I'm going quite deep into this, but it's something that I'm focusing quite a lot, and that's kind of why I want to bring up the subject of the 59.6, because there is so much more depth to it. And how world has been so homogenized with the sex and sexual industry and porn, and there's all kinds of stuff going on in there that, I don't know, to me it's just kind of ugly. And to me there's such beauty in intimacy and all of that I kind of want to peek a curtain to that world rather than just the surface level of friction of sexuality and sex and what that might mean. Oh yeah.
Actually, now that you're saying it, and I remember once a lock, okay, I'm bringing an authority here, but saying it just made me think that he was like, even sexual intercourse are actually outside parts meeting with, they're covered with skin, so it's kind of outside parts meeting outside parts. Okay, there is this tiny opening which some fluids can come in, but it's still, that's not what intimacy is about. And it might be the side product of the real deep intimacy, but sex will stay only a friction between outside parts
Yeah,
if it's
it's like
done just like that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you know, to really get inside another being, it's impossible. You know, the only person that you can be intimate with is yourself. And I remember, you know, there's some people use this phrase, but intimacy is like, into me I see. So it's about intimacy with yourself, because that's the real character that you can really know and also not know. But you know, if you're here in the world to know somebody in a very, very deep level, it's yourself. And of course you can get to know other people and get to know them really well, but you can't really really grasp their world in a way that you can with yourself. So a friend of mine said to me, it was kind of funny, he used an example that he thought that all the 59 sixes are like, you know, you just look at them walk in the world, and they're just like they're having sex with themselves. You know, that was his perception of his channel. And I was like, it's kind of fitting, because it really is like, it's like, I don't really need anybody, you know, like I'm quite good with my, you know, like I love myself, and, you know, I'm good with my body, and I'm happy with that. So there is some kind of energy like that there, I guess. You know, like not really needing the other. Maybe that's what's attractive. I don't know. Kind of being hard to get, you know, it comes back to this being hard to get as an emotional being. Well, you know, like I don't need anybody. I'm good with myself. Oh yeah, I don't know. By the way, I just want to put it out there that I always find it really funny how people find the attractiveness, because I'm like, to me, I'm the ugliest motherfucker that there is. I'm very boyish, you know, I've got like quite rough manners, you know, like I can kind of like do all kinds of stuff that the women don't normally do, you know. And I always find it really funny when somebody has that projection onto me. Like, what the fuck? Like, dude, you know, I couldn't give a toss about that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's all a projection field. You know, I'm a fifth line. I have a lot of openness. I have a completely open G center. Of course, I'm going to get all the projections, and you know, it's funny. Which is why I also want to bring up this subject of how it's not sexual.
Yeah, but I want to comment on what you said, on what your friend said about the 59 sixes walking around having sex with themselves. Like, it's like so true, because if you think mechanically, because 59 6 is always a generator, so they have their own sexuality, sexual identity, and then they have the fire going on all the time. So, you know, it's like, indeed, it's coming back and forth between those two centers, and they're such strong energy centers. So yeah, I can really relate to that as a generator, maybe, but I'm not an emotional, so I know how sexual emotional people can feel and how it's interpreted as sexual, this energy, but it's actually just a juicy, emotional, inspirational, ticklish, and sometimes the opposite feeling energy. But yeah, indeed, interesting.
I think like one of the things that is kind of when people talk about the 59 6 channel, it's more like they talk about the 59. The six is the funny part in it, you know. The six is the ones like, not that interested, creates friction, you know. So it's like it's an energy between the two, you know, the 59, the availability, and then there's the six that is the closing almost. And you know, obviously depending on which lines you got in any of these gates, but there is always the friction. And if you think about sex itself, it needs to have the friction for it to be enjoyable. And usually when, you know, like, I would just say that, you know, whenever people make a projection and think, oh, you're so nice or something like that, but then I come and I'm meeting them with the friction, then suddenly I'm the asshole, you know. But the friction is needed to be there in order for that choosiness to happen. It's like it's almost like we hardly ever kind of want to look at the friction because it's the unpleasant part. You know, it's the part that we want to avoid. We want to avoid the truth and confrontation with open solar plexus. We want to avoid the friction and the conflicts that happen as a result. So therefore, you know, the point where it gets to that is like, yeah, I'm done with you. Which is why I always say that as a 59-6, I always have to go through a conflict with somebody to know whether they're correct for me or not. How do they deal and navigate with the conflict? Are they going to go through with it? Are they going to, you know, go through the growth of what that can bring? Or are they just going to go, oh, I'm done with you? So, you know, waiting out your wave, waiting out for the friction and the conflicts to happen is absolutely crucial with this channel. And I would say with anybody with a defined solar plexus, just going through the resistance in a way, you know.
Yeah, this makes me think of how people say that friendship is tested in the flames of the fire. So something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's kind of funny to see
Interesting.
how in my experience anyway, people really do have problems with conflicts. Like a lot of people are unable to navigate them. There's like this, even if you have a defined solar plexus, a lot of people, they don't really know how to deal with that. It's such an unpleasant emotion or feeling to be met with a conflict with another or friction with another. It's like immaturity around that. And, you know, like it's kind of understandable if you don't know how to navigate the conflict, then the best option that you have is to try and avoid it, you know, to the best of your ability. And I'm all about conflict. I'm all about going through the conflict in awareness. And so that's kind of something that I do in my friendships and relationships is when conflict arises, because it always arises, is I want to be the one that kind of navigates around it. And if you can't be with me during that, then maybe you're not for me. I mean, this is where my satisfaction is in a way. And if you think about it, I only have that one channel. I'm a generator. I'm here to be satisfied in an intimate relationship. So if the story is over by the point I'm getting to the sixth gate, which is friction, then I'm never going to get my satisfaction. So it's like, for me, it's like having to go through this process of breaking and rebuilding something, growing through conflict, breaking old beliefs and systems, you know.
I'm kind of laughing because yeah, you're also 3-5, so you really it looks like you're really owning it, and that's so beautiful to see because there is this stigma around the 3-5 profile and those people in general, the black sheep who, you know, is always being wronged and always doing these mistakes. And it looks like you're embodying it. I can really see it, like, you know, these little, what you call boyish, maybe that's also, I call it a little bit cock attitude, you know. I mean, I'm gonna show you. It's like, and you're owning it, so it's beautiful to see, and it's also sexy actually. So yeah, you might want to run away from it, but it's like what it is. Yeah. Nice, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean 3-5. It's a, oh my God, it's hell of a profile to live. Oh, making enough mistakes to know that, yeah, don't do it that way, you know. There's a better way. Figuring out what works for years and years and years and years of like falling over flat on your face, and then in the end, when you finally got it, it's like it's in the body. It's really in the body. Like there's some kind of depth. I mean, I have my cousin who introduced me to human design. She's also a 3-5 with the 59-6. Surprise. It's
Oh,
funny
wow.
because she has the channel of 3536, the jack of all trades. She's done all kinds of stuff. Like she's been a hunter, she's been a beauty therapist, she's done all kinds of stuff, like, you know, like that don't relate to each other, but never a master of anything. But when I go to her about any problem that I have, so I don't know, might have some issue with my body or whatever, she always has an answer because she's been through it all, and she's a 3-5 and she's figured out what doesn't work. So when she delivers something, it's always heretical solution, and it always works because it comes from that experience of going through something and figuring it all out. So I love being with other 3-5s because there's this some kind of a I don't know, some kind of physical depth to understanding what works and what doesn't. And I feel like I always get a solution of some kind that I wouldn't find if I was reading from a book or something. So I always go to my 3-5 friends to ask for help first.
Yeah.
The same with the 1-3s, by the way. Anybody who has a third line in their profile, I think it's the same kind of thing. But I think because I have a resonance with the other 3-5, so it's kind of natural for me to reach out with those.
I have a question about emotionality. And we mentioned very little. You said like people don't like to go there when we're talking about the other side of the pancake, when it's the dark times. Can you say something about your dark times and like just if we could open a little bit the curtain to your process? Because you know, emotional authority, it's like with 50% of the people, but it takes some time to get it, to really get it. And yeah, especially if it's red and unconscious, for instance.
Well, this question has been asked a few times, and I know that there's something in my design that makes my wave pretty low for the most of the time. So some people have similar design to mine, some activations like mine, and they seem to have the same thing, which is, so the question usually is like, are there any other people who experience mainly the low wave and the kind of depressive side of the wave and hardly ever get the high waves? That's my story. You know, I don't really get the high highs. I mean, I do, but they don't last very long. So I'm mostly always on the kind of I feel like shit, this kind of mood, you know? And so the darkness has been a huge part of my life. I'm going to be 44 years old next month, and I have a lot of experience about depression, you know, self-hatred, even getting to human design. And in the beginning, I remember I used to have this hope that, oh, it's going to get better. You know, my emotional state or my emotional wave is going to get better. I'm going to feel the highs. I'm going to be happier. But no, and that is not really how it works. And I'm not saying that I'm never happy. I'm quite happy now. You know, like I'm content. I'm at ease with what is. But it's not like I'm here to be happy. I'm not. I'm here to be. I'm here to feel whatever there is to feel and accept those feelings. So I know what it is to navigate through the dark times. And that could be another talk because I know a lot of people struggle with this. And I have seen that, especially over the last years, and, you know, we're coming to 2027, we're going through this mutation in humanity. People are faced with a lot of challenges, personal challenges, the dark night of the soul, all of that stuff. And I can see it coming up more and more and more and more. And oftentimes people struggle with that. And, you know, I do feel like I could offer a contribution to that. I wouldn't even know where to begin, though. Do you want to talk more on that? Do you want to ask me more specific questions on that. Or
You know what I was thinking? I don't know if you're open to that, but and whether I should even be bringing it up like that unexpectedly and surprisingly. But we were talking with Julia while creating the festival, and I really loved her idea to have those people who offer like emotional support, like if you just want to share something or stuff like that. And we're offering that for the live space during the festival, but it's a hybrid event and it's an online event, and you're actually taking part in the online part, so in the open mic and with your interview. So actually I'm thinking, if you like, to offer this to people that need to talk to somebody about this, if you're open, maybe you can be one of those people who people can turn to, especially during the days of the
I'm
festival.
open.
Great, fantastic.
I'm open. I do often feel like this is probably where I could offer the most to people. It's because it's, you know, I really have nothing to hide. You know, I come from my life before human design. I was in complete self-hatred. You know, I was self-harming. I've tried to commit a suicide a couple of times. You know, I've been depressed. And then getting into human design and then slowly overcoming those issues, you know, over the years, really seeing how it's not like you can change who you are or what you feel. It's more about how you can change your perception of yourself. And this is really the key to me. And in that way, I always feel like, you know, I do have so much experience in feeling depression and being in this kind of difficult place and kind of struggling to get through, you know, whatever your feelings and emotions happen to be. And it's not about trying to focus on positive things. It's not about trying to be positive. And of course, there are different methods that you can do to help lift your mood, and that's necessary. But ultimately, it's about acceptance. And many people are not in that space that they can accept it. They want to get rid of it. They want to get rid of it and not feel it. And the key is unfortunately, is like through the pain. For me, anyway, I'm not saying it's for everybody. You know, I don't know what everybody else's journey is, but for me, it's been a journey through pain. And in that way, maybe I do have a heretical view on that too. But I do feel like there's something that I could offer to people, just based on my own experience. So thank you for inviting me. I'm definitely gonna feel about that. But I'm open.
Okay, because the festival is a transformational experience, and you might come to some realization that you just cannot cope with by yourself. For instance, I'm just
Yeah,
guessing, but yeah. Okay.
it's really important. I think, you know, like, so, I mean, having gone through that journey myself, and I see people, I'm a yoga teacher. Okay, I get a lot of people into my yoga classes that are trying to somehow accept themselves by, you know, with this bodily practice in a way. And I mean, I really see, and I'm so open, I feel people's pain. You know, I walk out there in the streets and I take in people's energy, and I can see how much people are in pain because they don't love themselves. And they have difficulty accepting, you know, whatever is going on in them. Especially in these times. So I really feel like it's a very important subject, and I'm very happy that you're doing something about that, because it needs to be addressed. You know, it's nice that people are able to seek for some perspectives and different insights to how to live with that. I like that.
Yeah. Julia, do you have some questions to Hannele. You're also in a special state, I can see.
Questions? Yeah, questions. I think at this point, I more want to thank you for your sincerity, for your sharpness, and really bringing yourself as you are. And
Thanks.
it's not taken for granted, it's never taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm. So if there is something
Yeah.
you would like to share with our audience, or just with the world at large.
There's
So,
a lot I could share, but it's hard for me. I've
some,
got the right variable in my personality, so I never really know what to say.
so like, something that if you're not saying it, it stays with you, and if you say it, it's out there in the collective.
Mm. Well, since we touched on a subject, I often think like, okay, if if the whole world was listening and I could say, I could deliver one message, what would that be? I like to contemplate on that. And I always come back to the same, which is like the self-love. It's the most important thing. Like you can look at it mechanically, of course, and I have all kinds of geeky insights about that. I'm not going to go into that, but I have a completely open G center. So in a way, I have a unique perspective of what love is or what self-love can mean. And then somebody who has gone through the journey of being in complete self-hatred. And then through strategy and authority, I've been able to leave that behind. Regardless of what the world thinks of me, I still love myself. It's like encouragement, I guess, that even though strategy and authority might feel like a tedious process, or not really kind of getting it, or maybe you're still kind of trying to figure out what it means for you to listen to your inner authority, whatever your type is. The key is to really stick with that, because what it brings you ultimately is the ability to love yourself unconditionally. And to me, there's nothing better in this world. I couldn't, like I told you before, that my journey has been largely on the struggle side and the low wave, and all of that. Is that I think without this process and without being able to land into self-love, it would have been very, very difficult, if impossible, for me to continue this life here on this earth. Like, I'm so grateful for the strategy and authority. And I know Ra said, people say that it didn't come from the source, that Ra made it up in a way. And there's some talks with some human design people about, like whether it's just something that Ra made up, and, maybe we can bypass that and all of that. And to me, it's more like, well, I have discovered that it works. It works. And regardless of where it came from, whether Ra made it up or not, it really works, and it can really bring you closer to yourself. And when you get to this space of loving yourself, no matter what the other people think of you, it's the best gift that the universe can give you. The best gift that universe gave me. And sometimes it makes me really emotional when I feel about it, because now I'm going to start tearing up. But like, because I was thinking, obviously, before I came to this interview, and I was thinking that you might ask me something about my life before human design, and I hardly ever look back at who I was before this. And I think I don't look back because it was so painful. But I really had to look back, and I remember that the kind of state that I was in, like, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how I feel. I still don't know how I feel, because my emotions are unconscious. but now I have a language and a map, you know. But being in such a state that I just want nothing more than to die. And there was always this heaviness of the outside world of pushing you, and always the lack of trust in yourself, even though I knew in myself that I don't want to do this. I have a feeling inside of me that I know better, but I didn't have the strength to believe in that because everybody else was telling me something else. So, you know, I was always going with the flow. I was going on with whoever was pressuring me. And how all of that going against myself was re-emphasizing the fact that I hated myself. I hated myself for not listening to myself, for not having trust in myself. And it was such a painful place to be. And I was just like, I imagine that, okay, I experienced that, but how many other people might there be out there in the world who are experiencing the same pain and are experiencing the same pain? And I see it and I feel it in them. And, you know, going back to Julia's question, I mean, how am I now? Is that the pressure is still there. I mean, external world is constantly trying to pull me away from, and my mind, through my mind, is trying to pull me away from following my truth. But it cannot anymore. It cannot touch me because I'm solid. And that journey of becoming solid has taken me so many years. And if I had never started this journey, I would never be here today. So it's not like, okay, yeah, maybe for some, it can come overnight. It can happen pretty quickly. Maybe some people are more likely to have the groundwork of loving themselves already. But for me, it's been constantly just pushing everybody else away, pushing my mind away, and just going with, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. And for me, you know, I have the 29 in my personality Earth, and the 29.3, which is actually the gate of saying no. So I'm grounding in knowing what I don't want to do. It's always been my thing. So I'm pushing people away. No, I don't want that. And through that, I've been able to find my solidity. Even if the whole world is against me, I'm still going to stay as me, and I don't give a fuck, you know. And the kind of self-love that brings me is, I can't even put it into words. And I'm not happy. It's not the same as happiness. It's not like, oh, my life is great and now nothing ever gets to me. You know, it's not like that. It's more like I'm content with who I am. Even if life is hard, even if everything goes to shit and nothing works, I'm okay. I'm good. Okay, it didn't work. You don't like me. That's fine. You can go your own way. I'm good. You know, it's that feeling, and that's not happiness. It's just love.
Lovely. Lovely message. Thank you.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah, you really reminded me. I saw this girl on Instagram. I try to find her. Maybe I post her later. She has this song, this young teenager, and her song sounds like everybody wants you to be yourself until you actually do.
Yeah.
And this is so amazing. Like, it's just so powerful because when you really get yourself, you become uncomfortable, you become different, you become just self-sustainable. Of course, to the limits that we can offer ourselves, we still depend on each other in terms of survival and living in material body. We need supermarket to be open and all of that. And when you go beyond, yeah, it's really you find your own flow, and this eminence might be in a huge dissonance to what's going on around.
Yeah, it's
And
like,
dealing with that is, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's like realizing that you are alone in your journey in a way. That's the real thing. Like, I think most people are really uncomfortable when they realize, shit, I'm alone. Like, there's nobody backing me up. Nobody. Like, even your close, like at the point, like if you happen to be in this journey and you're faced with the situation where your closest ones are not supporting you in your truth, this is a real challenge, like, do you then ignore your truth and go with your closest ones because they think that they know what's better for you? Or do you still stay with yourself, which means you're going to be alone and you face with that aloneness? And it doesn't mean that, like you're never going to have anybody supporting you or anything like that, but just a simple realization that, you have your journey, they have theirs. Where do you go? What do you do with that? Meeting the void.
Exactly. Or meeting the source, and that is also being one-on-one with it, is basically transgressing the self in its most potent way of being.
Right. I like that you turned it into the source, because that's what it really is. It just feels like a void at the point where you kind of, in a way, turning your back to the external world and you just fall into your own truth. It feels like, oh, there's nothing here, there's nobody else here. But then, like you say, it's actually the source of your own being.
And that's definitely not who you think you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want to say one more thing. It's like, sometimes when I've really realized what I have got in this life through human design, the gift that I've been given by universe with this knowledge, it's like I'm overwhelmed. Like, how is this even possible? Like, coming from where I was to being here today, like, how did this shift even happen? Like, how did I get so fucking lucky in this life that this transformation took place, and the gratitude that comes from that, and the gratitude to what, really, well, to being alive, to having the experience. It's incredible. I would wish this for everybody who gets to meet this knowledge. I would wish that they would all get this experience of feeling the fullness of themselves. But I know it's not going to happen to everybody, and we're not here to push anything into it. Like you said, your friend who's got my channel, like you can see how this could really help her or him. I don't know which one you said they are, but
yeah,
it's still, you can't push it. And there's certain,
exactly.
yeah, and there's certain like sometimes it's like, oh, again, it's an emotion that you meet when you know that, okay, this could be really good for you and I could help you with it, and they don't want it. The feelings that come from that realization that you have to let them go and live their own lives, even though you could help them. Yeah, the sadness and all that melancholy that comes from that. And again, that's some kind of thing that you just have to accept within yourself, because you are not here to save everybody. So, well,
but also in the terms that we are all in the different, not only in a different space, yeah, we're also in a different time.
Yeah, exactly.
And when somebody's timing, regardless the age and the now, yeah, it's just different. They're not ready in their evolutionary process for stepping into this. It's okay. Fine.
That's right. And this I think as an emotional being, time concept is something that has really changed in me. Because I don't really live, I mean, I know that there's a clock and there's a calendar and days of the weeks and, you know, all of that, but I live very much in my body's timing. You know, it's time is an illusion. So like you say, if you're not ready for something just because it's there now, well, am I going to make an artificial time to be my authority, or am I going to allow my own process to take place, and whatever I have to leave behind as a result of that, I'm going to leave behind. So the timing is really
I hope.
something to watch.
For me, this was one of the biggest things of understanding no choice is in regards to the other. When you
Yeah.
see it's like they're not taking it, so it's you have no choice. No choice. Yeah. Wow, that was an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too.
Yeah. Honestly, I even felt emotional.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Well, you have
And
to
it's just the beginning.
so yeah. It's so interesting to see how you can get into these super heartfelt conversations through the internet. It just amazes me every time how it's possible to do it. But I wish we could have another conversation in person at some point.
Maybe we will. Maybe
Yeah,
we will.
yeah.
I'm definitely open to that. You never know what happens.
Mm,
Life is a mystery, and you can never know how the future's gonna happen. But those things that are meant to happen will happen. So
yeah. It was lovely talking to you, Hannele. Thank you very much for sharing yourself with us and all these lovely people who are interested to be a part of the Human Design Rave Festival 2024, whether live or online or just peeking through those videos. Guys, we know you want to be there with us, so whether you can or not, there is now possibility with single tickets. So it's we're trying to be really inclusive here and give the chance to everybody to experience the connectionship we're having with all these amazing people through around the world. It's our true privilege with Julia to show you, so you can also taste. Well, with that, we come to a close.
thank you so much for letting me be here. And I just wanted to say thank you very much for being here. And I also enjoyed it very much. And I want to send love to everybody.
Love to everybody. Love yourselves.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Thank you for being with us on this journey at the Human Design Rave Festival 2024.